Good morning. Hey, this is Eric with Dempsey's Resolution Fitness at dempseysresolution.com, and I'm having my morning coffee, and allergies are kicking my butt. Like, awesome. I never had allergies my whole life, and all of a sudden, like, boom. I'm 46 now, and I get allergies every day, sniveling like a bitch. But, it's funny, I take the super cheap allergy meds that you get at the dollar store, and they work great. Shut it right down. I don't get it, but anyway, I guess that's price of getting older. There's something about living in Salem, Alabama. I guess things evolve around here. You go from no allergies to allergies. But anyway, I'm drinking my coffee, and I was going to bring up my daily rant, my morning coffee rant. I usually talk to myself in my old age about topics of interest. But I wanted to share with you the concept. You know how today, like, nobody likes weight machines anymore. Like hammer strength and all that stuff. And, I've spent my whole life, 30 plus years, on and off in different gyms around the world. And machines were always there, with the free weights, naturally. And now don't get me wrong, we're talking about looking at the positives of everything, and I believe that every training modality and type of training has its place and its time in the realm of physical culture. Okay? So today I wanted to talk about, nobody talks about machines anymore, and how you can, what good are machines? They're not good, they're not functional fit, they have no value, but they do. Okay? There is a time and a place for machines. And even if you're a functional fitness guru or an avid the sportive fitness type, one of them, there is a place and a time where you can use a machine and actually benefit greatly from it. Okay? Now, I'm not saying, obviously, total body, multi-joint, compound movements done with free weights, dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, body weight, other resistance objects, those are optimal, right? I agree. Those are optimal. But there's a place where, what if you can't do total body, multi-joint, compound movements? For example, leg training. Obviously, yeah, all variations of kettlebell, dumbbell, barbell, body weight, deep squats, lunges, Bulgarian split squats, front squats, back squats, side lunges, front lunges, reverse lunges, walking lunges. That's all awesome, right? But like, I got a whole host, at 46, after being in the realm of physical culture for, about 34 years now, roughly, it's catching up with me. And it's a struggle to stay ahead of the age monster. And let me tell you, there's things that I just can't do anymore, and that's really hard for me to admit. Like deep ass to grass squats. It's a thing of the past. I can't do them anymore. I teach people to do them. I recommend that you do them. I try really hard to do them, but I have a host of injuries from the last several decades that now is just, like, we're talking physical impairment. Like, I can't do it anymore. My body will not go into certain places anymore. It takes an incredible amount of mobility, flexibility, and range of motion training just to be able to do regular stuff as you get older. You got to stay on it, okay? It's a daily struggle for me. Now, some people are gifted, I mean, truly, genetically, their bodies are just... they never been injured, or they just heal up and they're good to go. But I'm not one of them. I'm like an old bag of bricks. I've been banged around, and then somehow I've made it this far, which, I mean, honest to God, thank God I'm still here. But I've got my dents and scratches now. And there's just things that, so I am drifting towards training older adults and seniors to maintain a quality of life and a functional fitness level where they can execute daily life events and not just be ridden to a wheelchair. Because long ago, we're talking 10 plus years ago, I could have gave up, easily, easily. So let me tell you a story about why machines, don't write off machines quite yet. So back in the late 90s, I did a parachute jump on Fort Benning. We were graduating from the Long Range Surveillance Leader course at the Ranger Training Brigade. And coming back from the final field training exercise down in Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, you parachuted back into Fort Benning and, you recovered back to post. And, the next big thing after you cleaned up and got everything sorted out was graduation. Well, I hit the ground, like a dirt torpedo. I came in like with my own fireball, like a meteorite re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. And the wind changed direction at the last second, and I hit, and bam, I strained my MCL. I couldn't walk. I had to crawl off the drop zone. And that was it. I was done, right? I went to the medics and I was like, hey, I need x-rays, MRI. I think I just, jammed my knee up into my neck. And they're like, oh, Ranger, you'll be fine. Here's some Motrin, an ace bandage, and drink your 2-quart of water, and then stretch. Stop your whining. Move out, And that was it, in typical Ranger fashion, right? So I wrapped my leg up with my ace bandage. They said, use the RICE principle. Rest, ice, compression, and elevation. Handfuls of ibuprofen and Motrin. Drink gallons of water and stretch, and you'll be a superhero overnight. That was, pretty much the Army's medical philosophy for, everything from a sucking chest wound to a sprained ankle. So, in the common cold, right? I don't think there's anything more in the medical book beyond that. But anyway, so I did that, and obviously, that doesn't work, right? So my knee didn't get better, and I immediately started to develop overcompensation and overuse injuries on my good leg that I was hobbling on. And next thing you know, both my knees were shot. I had every condition, on the good knee. I had, runner's knee, jumper's knee, patellofemoral syndrome, and every kind of knee thing that's related to that, I got diagnosed with by every different doctor and physician's assistant that I went to, right? Boom, you got this, you got that, you got all this crap. And they're all telling me they don't know what I had because, of course, there was no x-rays or MRIs. And I kept requesting them, but they're like, nah, another ace bandage. Here's an ice bag. Here's a thing of Motrin. Drink water and stretch. Ranger. And I was like, all right, cool. So now I'm crippled, right? Literally. So my squatting, my running, all my cardio stuff is out, right? And of course, I was at the Ranger Training Brigade where, the whole point of your existence was to be able to pass the Ranger 5-mile standard run. 5 miles, 8 minutes per mile, plus or minus 15 seconds to be completed in 40 minutes or less. On, uneven terrain. It's some big hills. Some of those, the turnaround point at the old 5-mile run was brutal. I never used to have a problem with it. I was good to go. I used to be fine. Then after I hurt my knees, that was it. My running days were over. I couldn't do it anymore. Did I gain weight? Of course I did. I couldn't run. I was running, 5 miles every day, and then all of a sudden, boom, my knees are broken. I couldn't even walk upstairs. My knees were buckling. I was dropping groceries, falling downstairs. My knees would just give out. They were gone, like shot. I mean, it was bad and excruciating pain. It was terrible. I was in a bad, bad way. The worst I've ever been hurt in my life. And I had a back injury too that was of similar intensity. So, there wasn't going to be any barbell back squats. There wasn't going to be any barbell snatches. There wasn't going to be any of these dynamic multi-joint, total body compound movements. That was done, right? So I had to get my knees better, and over time, of course, and then the philosophy of my chain of command at the time was that I was mentally weak. You know, I was a senior non-commissioned officer. Ranger tab, combat infantryman. And they were telling me I was mentally weak and that I needed to run more. And that would solve everything if I would just stop being weak in the mind and put more miles on the road. As I strapped on my 2 knee braces just to try to stand up. And I was like, yeah, that's a good plan. Let me get right on it. And they literally made me run with 2 knee braces on. And, all it did was further the injury. Total incompetence. And that's where my problem is with runners. Yeah, that caused me some deep seated, psychological issues, and there's certain groups of people in the world that I dislike. Runners who don't lift weights or do any kind of cross training, and all they do is running and think, because they're good at running should be the only thing you do. What I call ego physical fitness training. You only do stuff that you're good at, that you like. Not really a fan of those type of people, okay? And so these people were in charge of me. They were my mid and senior level managers, and they ran me into the ground with knee braces on, all kind of paperwork from my doctor saying, don't do it, stop immediately. They were just like, you're mentally weak, Ranger. You just need to suck it up and start running faster. Run more, run faster, run harder, throw up, and then you will be squared away. And of course, I was crippled. So actually, I never avoided that whole thing. I got better and better and better as I progressed on through that 10 years. But I ultimately had to retire to fix my knees. So fast forward to 10 years, broken knees, running, all my cardio stuff was pretty much dead in the water. It even hurt to swim. It was bad. I couldn't, walking was bad. I always lifted weights. I got really big and strong. Yeah, I did gain a lot of weight. And, I was able to, I had body fat fluctuations. I got fat. Then I would lean out because, nutrition and the weights, you can still do stuff. But the whole thing came down to, in my fits of despair, what can I do? A lot of times I'd throw up my hands and say, all right, what can I do? What can I do? Sarcastically meaning I couldn't do anything anymore. I was done. But the reality is it hit me. That was the answer. That wasn't the obstacle. What can I do? That was the solution. Because then I figured out, okay, I can't do this. I can't do that. That's fine. You can dwell in that realm, but you'll never go anywhere and you'll just sink, right? I can't do it. I can't do this. I can't do back squats. I can't do deep squats. I can't do this. I can't run. I can't jump. Plyometrics, out the window. What could I do? And then I looked at the big long row of empty machines. While everybody's doing burpees and all this stuff, snatches out in the foreground, there's this big row of empty machines. And I was like, well, let me get down this row of machines and see what I can do that doesn't hurt my injuries. And all of a sudden, I figured out, wow, if I isolate certain, if I isolate the movements and the muscle groups, I can still do stuff. And so one of the things that really helped, now this is a shocker to a lot of people, everybody shakes their head. One of the big things that finally helped fix my knees was the dreaded leg extension machine. Yeah, crazy, right? Now, 99% of the time I say stay away from machines. No core stabilization, no stabilization. It does all the work for you. It isolates, it's an isolated movement. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody's heard all that, sings that tune. And yeah, that's all true and right. But if you're injured or you have an older client or you have someone who's hurt or sick or just can't do stuff anymore, it's a regression, right? You have to look at it as you have to include machines into your regression program with clients as a trainer and a coach. So I regressed myself to machines. And I used machines. And what it did, I had to do core and stabilization training outside of machines because it takes all that benefit away. But what I did do was, maximal lift, strength, strength movements and strength endurance movements in a totally stable, isolated position. So I got real strong. I got my joints strong again, and my knees just responded well to it, both knees. And to this day, and then once I healed up, I went back to the constantly varied functional movements done at high intensity. And no, I don't mean CF. I mean like my own version of it, the program that I use. But same kind of stuff, total body, multi-joint, compound movements done at dynamic intensities and dynamic planes of motion and all that, using all different training modalities. And then I was good to go. I could, run again, but I was real hesitant to run again because that was part of the problem. You know, smashing into the ground like a meteorite and then pounding the pavement for, 5+ miles every day. Yeah. It proved to me that those two items were going to be deleted off my list when I retired from the military. Because the only reason I did either one of them was because they made me. It was part of the job. So anyway, I haven't had a knee problem since. And now I use, to keep my knees in check, the joke of it all, even though I do every type of squat I can pull off with my limited range of motion and whatnot, the big things I do, and I'm talking more for like fit over 40, injured, if you got any kind of limitation or disability that prevents you from doing all the high speed, cheetah flip, Olympic weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting with my injuries is out the window. I can't do it. My range of motion is a challenge. My mobility and flexibility, even though I used to be able to kick straight up and do splits and pull the Jet Li routine and Bruce Lee stuff, I can't, getting out of bed in the morning is a challenge for me now. I can teach you how to do it real good, but me doing it, those days are pretty much over. Now I'm the coach instead of the player. But anyway, for clients and people who need it, the machine is there. And if you use it properly and correctly, with good form and technique, and you combine it with other stuff that you can do outside, it can really pay off big benefits to increase strength, and your joints and your connective tissue. It really helps because as opposed to what? Atrophy, as opposed to not doing anything, wallowing in, self-pity, saying what you can't do. I can't do deep squats anymore. What can I do? My legs are going to, So I brought my legs back with machines. Now, you got to use both, Had to spend the equal time on a hamstring curl, right? Because you can't, anterior and posterior and lateral. You got to do the 360 degrees on every body part. So anyway, you got to do it right. But there is a time and a place for it. And the real deal is you got to think about what you can do. I use machines because, I was running out of options, looking around what I could do. I couldn't do this, couldn't do that. I was getting depressed. I looked at a machine, and I was like, maybe I can do that. And I tried it, and I could, and then all of a sudden, my fitness program took off, and eventually I was able to regain complete knee health. My knees are good. I never have knee pain now. Like, not, since that 10 years that I was suffering, the next, it's been, roughly the next 10 years, has been zero knee pain, okay? Zero knee pain. But one of the exercises I still do to this day is the knee extension, or the leg extension, right? And I use the Bowflex now. And I use max, I put all the rods on the Bowflex, max weight, heavy as I can go for as many reps as I can do, okay? And I even use resistance bands, and I hook them on to the Bowflex to add more resistance, right? That's another way you can upgrade if you do have any of those old school Bowflex. And believe me, I didn't buy the Bowflex. I'm not a body by Bowflex guy, although I joke about that now because I actually use it a lot, just because I have it. And if you use it right, you can actually get a good workout. So I throw these bands on there, and I do leg extensions that are super hard, super heavy, and you know what? My knees are fine, okay? Because I use that in conjunction with all the other stuff that everybody says is great. Because that stuff is great, total body, multi-joint compound movements, free weights, standing, try to avoid sitting. But I still go back to the seated machine leg extension, and it keeps my knees super healthy. Take that for what it's worth. If it applies to you, fine. If you don't think so, rock on with your Olympic weightlifting and all your dynamic movements. Because if you can do it, Godspeed. Keep at it. But there's going to be a time and a place for a lot of people when you can't do it anymore. And if you can't do it anymore, that isn't a reason to give up. I'm old and broken, but you know what? Every day I go into the gym and I find a new way to do something. How can I do something? What can I do? Okay? Instead of saying I can't, I can and I will, I just have to do it different than you do now. Okay? I can't do the high speed stuff anymore. But I'm still out there in the fight because I try to find a way and I try to find something, how can I do something? Right? You got to continue the battle. You got to continue the fight. Never give up. Never quit. No matter how old you are, no matter your injuries or disabilities or limitations, there's always something you can do. So don't write the machines off just yet because you might need one day. All right? This is Eric, Dempsey's Resolution Fitness. Hope you have a great day. I'm going to finish my coffee now. God bless you, God bless America, and God bless our troops. Amen.